You felt it long before anything was revealed. It began as a quiet tightening in your spirit, a subtle shift in the atmosphere around you. Chosen ones know this feeling well, the moment where something invisible brushes against your intuition. It never screams, it whispers. It never panics, it nudges. This was not random emotion or unnecessary worry. It was divine alignment moving into place. God didn't warn you immediately, not because he was late, but because he was preparing the perfect moment for the truth to strike your awareness. Delay is a language of heaven, one spoken only to those who walk closely with God, and you were being positioned for revelation. While you were going about your day, unaware of the hidden motives around you, heaven was not silent. There was movement in the unseen realm, movement meant to protect you, expose deception, and shift things in your favor. The investigator thought you were unguarded. They believed the window of silence meant the coast was clear, but God was watching them with a precision they never saw coming. That 2-hour delay was divine surveillance. God let them climb just high enough so that their fall would be undeniable. He let them gather just enough rope so the truth could tie itself around their actions. Nothing done against a chosen one remains hidden for long. Think about the emotional weight of that moment when the warning finally came. It didn't arrive gently, it hit your spirit like a sudden shock of clarity. Your chest tightened, your mind sharpened, and your intuition awakened instantly. That reaction wasn't fear, it was recognition. You realized instantly why God waited. Had the warning come earlier, you would have stepped away too soon, missing the full picture. Had it come later, the damage could have reached you. You were warned at the exact second your spirit could handle it. And at the exact second, the investigator crossed the line heaven needed them to cross. Many people underestimate the chosen ones because they only see the physical. They don't see the spiritual radar God installs inside you. They don't understand that chosen ones feel the truth before the truth introduces itself. They don't know that your soul starts vibrating when God is trying to get your attention. When you finally received that warning, it confirmed everything your intuition had been whispering for days, maybe even weeks. People will call it coincidence, but chosen ones recognize divine timing instantly. You didn't react emotionally, you reacted spiritually, and that reaction saved you. If this message is already hitting your spirit, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Mirror of the Soul so these messages reach you right when you need them. I want you to reflect deeply and share in the comments. Have you ever received a warning from God at the exact moment something was about to happen? Did you only understand the timing later? Your story might give another chosen one the confirmation they desperately need. There are seasons where chosen ones feel a mysterious pressure around them, an invisible audience, a presence that does not come from God but from those secretly observing their lives. You sensed it long before the truth revealed itself. There was a strange heaviness in your spirit, a shift in people's behavior, a sudden curiosity that didn't feel natural. The investigator believed you were unaware, thinking you were spiritually asleep. But what they didn't understand was that chosen ones are never off. Your intuition stays alert even when your mind is at rest. And while they were watching you, heaven was watching them with a focus sharper than their intentions. God allowed their investigation to continue for a period, not because he was ignoring you, but because he wanted them to expose themselves fully. Sometimes, God allows people to pry, to dig, to overstep boundaries so that their true nature is revealed without you having to confront them. It was necessary for them to move far enough for you to see what was behind their smile, their curiosity, their sudden interest in your life. The truth is, they weren't studying you. They were studying your blessing, your strength, your essence. They wanted access to what God gave you, hoping they could understand or even duplicate it. When God finally pulled back the curtain and showed you the truth, it made sense instantly. The behavior, the energy shifts, the strange conversations, all of it connected like pieces of a divine puzzle. You weren't imagining things, you were discerning. Your soul recognized danger long before your mind had evidence. And that's the power of being chosen. You don't need proof to know something is off. Your spirit sees what your eyes cannot. God waited just long enough so that, when he revealed the investigator's actions, you would understand the full depth of their intention, not partially, but completely. Many viewers of Mirror of the Soul share stories about being watched by coworkers, ex-friends, or even family members who suddenly grew overly curious. It's almost as if chosen ones carry a spotlight they didn't ask for. Your life becomes a subject of fascination, judgment, or even obsession. But here's the truth. People study what they don't understand, and they fear what they cannot control. The investigator wasn't hunting for information. They were hunting for weaknesses that God never allowed them to see. And that limited access frustrated them more than you know. There are battles chosen ones never signed up for, battles fought in silence, in dreams, in intuition, and in the unseen places of the spirit. You didn't know an investigator had their eyes on you, but your soul did. You felt a spiritual disturbance, a vibration in the atmosphere that hinted at conflict. This was not paranoia. This was discernment. Chosen ones often sense war before it reaches their doorstep. God allowed the silent battle to unfold without warning because he knew you would not move in fear. You would move in wisdom. When God waited those 2 hours, the battle intensified quietly. The investigator grew bold, thinking your silence meant vulnerability. They didn't realize your silence was not weakness. It was spiritual insulation. Heaven was shielding you while the enemy mistakenly believed they had a window of opportunity. Every attack against a chosen one passes through God's hands first. The investigator didn't understand that they weren't just monitoring you. They were entering a battlefield protected by divine laws. And violating those spiritual laws always comes with consequences. Your spirit was being strengthened in the silence. The delay built your intuition, sharpened your awareness, and deepened your connection with God. It made you more sensitive to subtle energies, hidden motives, and quiet threats. This was training, not punishment. God was teaching you how to recognize spiritual conflict without needing physical evidence. You were learning how to sense warfare before it materializes. That's why the warning hit so strongly. It wasn't shock. It was confirmation of what your soul already knew. When the truth finally surfaced, it didn't surprise you, it surprised them. The investigator never expected you to find out. They believed their actions were hidden in shadows, protected by secrecy. But nothing remains hidden from God, and nothing stays unseen for long around a chosen one. The moment of exposure wasn't designed to shock you. It was designed to humble them. They believed they were studying you while moving undetected, but God made sure their intentions slipped through the cracks. Exposure always comes with a spiritual purpose. God needed you to see who was around you, not who they pretended to be. When the investigator was caught, it wasn't because you were watching them. It was because heaven was. Every detail they tried to hide was recorded in the spiritual realm, and God released that information to you at the exact moment your spirit could handle it. That's why it didn't overwhelm you. It felt like confirmation rather than catastrophe. Chosen ones are often shocked not by what people do, but by how far they are willing to go. You didn't expect that person to pry into your life, question your actions, or gather information behind your back. Yet at the same time, your spirit wasn't surprised. That's the strange paradox of spiritual awakening. You are emotionally shocked but spiritually unsurprised. When the truth came out, it didn't break you, it broke the illusion. It peeled back the mask they were hiding behind, revealing motives they hoped you'd never discover. There's a reason God didn't stop the investigator immediately. There's a reason he let them approach you, analyze you, and try to understand your life. God allows certain enemies to come close, not to harm you, but to reveal themselves. Sometimes, the only way you will see someone's true character is by allowing them proximity. God was not protecting their access. He was protecting your clarity. The 2-hour window was a divine setup, letting them show you who they truly were. When the investigator got close, they believed it was by their own intelligence or manipulation. They assumed they outsmarted you, but chosen ones aren't outplayed, they're positioned. God allowed their presence because you needed to see their heart without their mask. If God stopped them too early, you would have continued trusting someone who did not deserve your trust. If he waited too long, the damage could have been greater. So he timed it perfectly, allowing just enough access for full revelation. God uses closeness to test hearts, yours and theirs. The investigator's motives surfaced naturally without God having to expose them himself. They exposed themselves. That's the power of divine positioning. Enemies reveal their intentions when they feel confident. They show their greed, jealousy, curiosity, and hidden agendas when they think you're unprotected. And that's exactly when God gives you the spiritual download that changes everything. You weren't blindsided, you were educated. The closeness was not a threat, it was an advantage. Their access became evidence. Their behavior became testimony. Their curiosity became their undoing. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul know this feeling, betrayal that didn't surprise them, warning signs they ignored, or people who got close only to expose themselves later. But now you see the purpose. Revelation required proximity. God let them walk into a trap they built themselves. The 2-hour delay wasn't an accident, it was strategy. God is not bound by time. He uses time as a tool. When he waits, it's never random. It's always intentional. He knew the exact moment the investigator crossed the spiritual threshold where exposure became necessary. He knew when your spirit was ready. He knew when their confidence peaked. God uses timing to orchestrate revelation in a way that delivers clarity, not chaos. Had the warning come earlier, you may not have recognized the full picture. You would have missed key behaviors, subtle actions, small details that revealed their character. Had the warning come later, their influence might have caused real harm. So God calibrated the timing with precision, down to the minute. Chosen ones operate under divine synchronization, not human schedules. You are protected in ways you don't always understand until hindsight reveals the brilliance of God's timing. Those 2 hours were a revelation waiting to unfold. While you felt uneasy, God was rearranging circumstances, adjusting spiritual alignments, and preparing your discernment. You thought you were just going through emotions, but your spirit was upgrading. You were being trained to handle sudden warnings with maturity, not panic. And because you handled the timing well, God is now trusting you with greater spiritual sensitivity. Timing is one of the clearest signs of God's love for his chosen. He knows when you're ready for the truth. He knows when you're ready for separation. He knows when you're ready for clarity. Many viewers of Mirror of the Soul share the same testimony. I didn't understand the delay until I saw what God protected me from. Delay is protection disguised as patience. Delay is defense disguised as silence. Delay is strategy disguised as stillness. People don't investigate what they don't envy. They don't study what they don't fear. The investigator wasn't curious about your life. They were envious of what God placed in you. They saw your strength, your confidence, your spiritual elevation, and it triggered something inside them. Envy dresses itself as interest. Jealousy hides behind questions. Insecurity disguises itself as concern. They weren't watching you, they were watching your anointing. Envy drives people to invade boundaries they have no business crossing. It makes them dig for flaws, weaknesses, or secrets they hope will make them feel better about themselves. But chosen ones carry a light that exposes insecurity in others. Your presence alone highlights what they lack. And instead of growing, healing, or seeking God for themselves, they try to study you like a specimen. They think if they understand you, they can diminish you. But envy cannot defeat destiny. What the investigator didn't understand was that your anointing cannot be decoded or copied. It wasn't given by people, so it cannot be taken by people. Your strength is spiritual, not physical. Your favor is divine, not earned. Your intuition is supernatural, not logical. They were researching something heaven handcrafted specifically for you. Their envy blinded them to the truth. Studying a chosen one only reveals the weakness in the observer, never in the chosen. Envy is always self-destructive. It corrodes integrity, clouds judgment, and invites spiritual consequence. When the investigator was caught, it wasn't just an exposure of behavior, it was an exposure of pride. They believed they had the right to examine your life, not realizing they were walking into a divine mirror reflecting their own emptiness. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul have experienced this, people trying to decode their success, their resilience, their blessings. But God protects what He anoints. Chosen ones always feel it before God confirms it. You felt the discomfort. You sensed the shift. Your spirit began tightening as if preparing for impact. This wasn't anxiety, it was spiritual intuition awakening. God waits to speak sometimes because He wants you to trust the voice He already placed inside you. He wants you to develop spiritual independence, not fragility. He wants you to recognize danger without needing verbal confirmation every time. Your intuition is one of your greatest spiritual weapons. It picks up frequencies people don't hear. It detects motives people don't speak. It senses threats not yet visible. The investigator moved in silence, but your spirit detected their presence anyway. You didn't know who or what at first, but you knew something was off. That knowing is a divine gift, one developed through heartbreak, betrayal, spiritual battles, and divine training. God waits to confirm things you already spiritually perceive. The 2-hour delay wasn't punishment, it was practice. God wanted you to trust that feeling, that inner alarm, that energetic disturbance. He wanted you to pay attention to patterns, not panic. He wanted you to recognize the difference between fear and intuition. And you did. You sensed the threat before the warning came. When God finally released the message, it aligned perfectly with what you had already discerned. That's why the moment of revelation felt so familiar. You had already felt it in your spirit. Spiritual sensitivity is a burden and a blessing. It isolates you, but it protects you. It exhausts you, but it elevates you. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul share this same experience, feeling something long before anyone can explain it. This is not a coincidence. It is a sign of spiritual maturity. God trusts you enough to let your intuition speak before He does because He built you strong enough to handle that level of discernment. People reveal their intentions through patterns, not accidents. The investigator began exposing themselves long before you knew what they were doing. Their energy shifted, their behavior changed, their curiosity intensified. They asked odd questions. They watched your movements differently. They showed too much interest in things that weren't their concern. These weren't coincidences, they were clues. The chosen see patterns before people confess. God didn't warn you immediately because He needed you to observe the pattern. He needed you to recognize the signs so that in the future you could identify similar spirits without needing divine intervention every time. Chosen ones gain wisdom through observation. You learned how to read energy, how to examine behavior, how to notice contradictions. You learned how to trust your instincts without doubting yourself. And when the warning came, you connected every dot effortlessly. The investigator believed they were subtle. They thought you were blind to their intentions, but the chosen see through facades with uncomfortable clarity. Your silence wasn't ignorance, it was data collection. You watched them as they watched you. You studied their study of you. You noticed the shifts in tone, the urgency in their questions, the nervousness in their actions. They thought they were hunting, but you were analyzing. God used their own behavior as evidence against them. Patterns never lie. People can fake words, but they cannot fake energy. Your ability to sense these shifts is one of the reasons God protects you so fiercely. You are not naive, you are observant. Many viewers of Mirror of the Soul have seen the same signs: jealous behavior, abnormal interest, unexpected shifts in relationships. This is how God trains chosen ones, not through panic but through awareness. God is a master strategist. When people set traps for a chosen one, they are unknowingly walking into a divine reversal. The investigator believed they were gathering information, but every step they took was leading them into their own exposure. The trap they thought would catch you became the trap that caught them. This is the spiritual irony that always protects the chosen. What is meant to destroy you becomes the very thing that destroys the enemy. The investigator never expected consequences. They believed their actions were justified, clever, or harmless. But God saw their heart. He saw the intention behind the curiosity. He saw the desire to manipulate, control, or expose. And because the chosen are covered by divine law, the investigator triggered a spiritual reaction they didn't see coming. Their plan backfired the moment God intervened. They weren't caught by you, they were caught by heaven. Traps always return to the sender when the target is chosen. That's why you remained untouched. That's why their plan unraveled. God protected you by allowing them to reveal themselves fully before stopping them. And when he stopped them, it was not a quiet correction. It was a divine interception. Their exposure wasn't accidental, it was orchestrated. They didn't stumble into it, they walked toward it confidently, believing they were safe. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul have witnessed similar reversals, people who plotted, manipulated, lied, or schemed, only to be caught in the very system they created. This is how God defends his chosen, not by preventing the enemy's plan but by turning it into their downfall. You were never in danger. You were always in the center of divine protection. There are dangers God shields you from that you never even become aware of. The investigator's intentions were only partially revealed to you, but heaven saw the full picture. God intervened in the spiritual realm before their actions ever manifested physically. While you were simply living your life, unaware of the darkness forming behind the scenes, God was intercepting conversations, redirecting circumstances, and disrupting plans designed to harm you. He blocked what you didn't see, because chosen ones are covered by supernatural defense systems you don't always recognize until much later. This is why your spirit suddenly felt uneasy hours before the warning came. Something invisible was approaching you, but it never touched you because God intercepted it. You felt the shadow of the danger, not the danger itself. That subtle anxiety, that sudden heaviness, that unexpected shift in your mood, it was your spirit registering what God was deflecting on your behalf. The enemy wanted access. The investigator wanted answers. But heaven had already built a barrier they couldn't cross. When God protects you, he doesn't always explain what he blocked. Sometimes he shields you silently because explanations would overwhelm you. If you knew everything God saved you from, you would fall to your knees in awe. You would cry tears of gratitude. You would realize how many unseen forces try to infiltrate your peace and how many times those forces fail because your life has divine restrictions written over it. The chosen don't walk alone. They walk with an army. Many viewers of Mirror of the Soul have experienced this kind of spiritual protection. They felt the warning, but they never saw the full scale of the danger. This is God's mercy, revealing enough for you to understand but not enough to frighten you. He only shows you the surface because the depth of his protection is too vast for your heart to carry. People often judge you based on appearance, personality, lifestyle, or silence. The investigator only saw your outer shell. They had no idea who you were spiritually. They saw a person, but heaven saw a warrior. They saw someone living an ordinary life, but God saw someone carrying a divine assignment. They misread your calmness as weakness, your humility as naivety, your silence as ignorance. But the chosen are never what they appear to be on the surface. If the investigator had known your spiritual identity, they would have never tried to pry into your life. They would have understood that chosen ones are protected by angelic forces that cannot be bypassed. They would have known that touching a chosen one, even through intention, invites consequences. They would have realized that your life is not just your own, but part of a divine plan that stretches beyond anything they could comprehend. But their ignorance became their downfall. The spiritual world recognizes your identity long before people do. That's why you face battles others don't face. That's why your blessings provoke reactions. That's why your presence shifts atmospheres. The chosen carry an invisible mantle that draws attention, both divine and demonic. The investigator stumbled into spiritual territory they weren't prepared to navigate. They didn't know how powerful your covering was. They only understood when consequence came. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul know this feeling, being underestimated, misunderstood, or targeted because others cannot see the spiritual fire inside you. But every attack, every investigation, every betrayal becomes a testimony of God's protection. The more they try to study you, the more they expose themselves. The more they try to understand your calling, the more they realize they can't touch what God has anointed. Share your thoughts below. Have people underestimated your spiritual strength? How did God reveal your true identity through the situation? If this resonates, like the video and subscribe to stay connected. Sometimes God allows people to observe you, study you, and expose their intentions so that you have the clarity to separate from them completely. If God had removed them too early, you might have kept them in your life, trusting them, confiding in them, or allowing them access they didn't deserve. So God allowed their true heart to surface in their behavior. He let you see the real them, not the version they showed the world. The investigator did you a favor without realizing it. Their attempt to gather information revealed their jealousy, their insecurity, and their intentions. You walked away not because of the warning but because of the truth you saw in their actions. God used their investigation to free you from connections that were secretly draining you. The separation wasn't your loss, it was your protection. Many chosen ones hold onto relationships too long because of loyalty or compassion. But God needed you to see what He saw. He needed you to detach emotionally so you could protect yourself spiritually. The moment you realized what was happening, the emotional bond snapped. You felt the shift instantly. You understood that your destiny couldn't include people who studied you more than they supported you. On Mirror of the Soul, countless viewers share similar stories. Friends, partners, coworkers, or relatives watching them, questioning them, crossing invisible lines of respect. It hurts at first, but later you see the blessing. God was removing what could not go with you to your next level. And now you're rising without the weight of pretenders. Being chosen comes with a price. People are drawn to your light even when they don't understand it. They envy your favor even when you didn't ask for it. They study your strength because it exposes their weakness. The investigator targeted you not because you were vulnerable, but because you were powerful. But here's the paradox. The chosen are targets, yet they are untouchable. The enemy sees your potential long before you do. He sees your purpose, your calling, your spiritual influence. And he sends people to distract you, derail you, or decode you. But no matter how close they get, they cannot touch your destiny. Your anointing creates spiritual boundaries that cannot be broken. Every time someone attempts to cross them, they run into divine protection. People can watch you, but they cannot harm you. They can study you, but they cannot stop you. They can plot against you, but they cannot prevail. This is the promise God makes to every chosen one. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Not fewer weapons, not smaller weapons, none. Weapon formation is allowed. Weapon success is forbidden. The investigator learned this truth the hard way. They tried to access a life protected by God and paid the spiritual price. Many viewers of Mirror of the Soul experience this cycle repeatedly. Targeted but protected, attacked but victorious, underestimated but elevated. This is not coincidence. It is the trademark of a chosen life. Timing is everything. God did not reveal the investigator's actions when you were emotionally fragile. He waited until you were spiritually stable. If the truth had come at the wrong moment, it might have overwhelmed you, triggered you, or destabilized you. But God nurtured your spirit, strengthened your discernment, and deepened your faith so that when the truth came, it felt empowering rather than damaging. You didn't collapse under the truth, you rose because of it. You didn't break, you awakened. You saw the situation clearly and made decisions without emotional chaos. This is the power of divine timing. God reveals truth when it becomes a tool for your growth, not a weapon against your peace. He revealed the investigator's actions when your identity was rooted in strength, not insecurity. Many chosen ones want clarity immediately, but God works differently. He reveals truth when the revelation aligns with your destiny. He gives warnings when they won't crush you. He exposes people when you're ready to separate from them. He allows betrayal when you're strong enough to rise above it. On Mirror of the Soul, countless people share how exposure strengthened their confidence instead of breaking it. This is how God works with His chosen. Truth arrives as transformation, not trauma. You were ready for what you discovered, and that's why it didn't destroy you. What the investigator intended for you returned to them instead. Their actions initiated a spiritual reaction that hit them harder than they expected. They didn't understand the principle that governs the chosen. Touch not my anointed. When they tried to invade your life, they activated divine justice. They ended up facing consequences that were originally meant for you, but God intercepted the outcome. You were protected from backlash, from exposure, from embarrassment, from trouble. Everything they planned ricocheted back into their own life. The chosen never faced the full weight of the enemy's intention. God absorbs it, redirects it, and sends it to the rightful source. This is why you remain standing while others fall. This is why you rise while others stumble. This is why you heal while others break. The investigator didn't realize that spiritual laws apply even when they are unaware of them. Their actions triggered divine repercussions that could not be undone, and you witnessed the result, not because you wished them harm, but because God wanted you to see how protected you truly are. Their downfall became your confirmation. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul have seen this dynamic play out repeatedly. Those who plot against them end up harmed by their own intentions. This is not punishment, it is spiritual equilibrium. The chosen walk under a covenant that prevents injustice from reaching them. What was meant for your destruction became their lesson. When the warning finally came, it didn't arrive through panic or chaos. It arrived through a whisper, a sudden urge, a shift in your spirit, a quickened heartbeat, a moment of intense clarity. God speaks subtly to the chosen because he knows your spirit hears him even in silence. The moment the warning touched your soul, everything clicked. The unease, the patterns, the strange behavior, all of it aligned in an instant. The whisper wasn't random, it was revelation. God didn't need to shout because your spirit was already listening. He waited until the exact second the investigator crossed the line, then he opened your eyes. The clarity felt supernatural because it was. You didn't reason your way into understanding. You recognized the truth instantly. That's the hallmark of divine revelation. Your spirit understands before your mind catches up. God speaks to chosen ones differently. He speaks through energy, intuition, discernment, dreams, sudden insight, and spiritual sensitivity. The whisper you heard was the final confirmation of everything your spirit had been sensing. The moment it came, you stepped into alignment with divine truth. You understood your role, your protection, and your next step. On Mirror of the Soul, countless people describe identical experiences, moments where God spoke in ways that bypassed logic entirely. These whispers are not imagination, they are divine downloads. Once you hear them, your direction shifts, your boundaries strengthen, and your perception sharpens. The investigator played their role, but the lesson wasn't about their behavior, it was about your evolution. You weren't being tested to reveal their character. You were being prepared to step into a higher level of discernment and spiritual awareness. God used their actions to strengthen your intuition, sharpen your boundaries, and deepen your understanding of human motives. The situation was training for future battles, future blessings, and future opportunities. The chosen do not grow through comfort, they grow through revelation. Every betrayal, every investigation, every hidden motive teaches you something essential. You learned how to trust yourself more. You learned how to read people spiritually, not just emotionally. You learned that your intuition is accurate. You learned that God speaks through discomfort. You learned that your spiritual radar is powerful. The investigator was simply the vessel used to teach you these truths. Their behavior was irrelevant. Your growth was the purpose. And now, because of this experience, you are more alert, more mature, more grounded, and more prepared. People will not be able to manipulate you as easily. They will not be able to hide their intentions. They will not be able to infiltrate your peace. You are stronger now than you were 2 hours before God warned you. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul share similar stories, moments where the pain became the teacher, and the teacher became the blessing. The chosen rise through lessons others avoid. You don't just heal, you transform. This entire situation wasn't just a warning, it was a transition. God was showing you that you are entering a season of heightened protection, clearer discernment, and stronger spiritual authority. What once slipped past your awareness will no longer get through. What once confused you will now be obvious. God is elevating your intuition and surrounding you with a shield that no enemy can penetrate. The investigator's exposure was a sign. The season where people could secretly study you is over. The season where hidden intentions went unnoticed is over. The season of vulnerability is over. You are stepping into a phase where God's hand will rest heavily on your life, where His voice will be clearer, where His protection will be undeniable. You won't just sense danger, you'll see it. You won't just feel shifts, you'll interpret them accurately. This new season will intimidate those who once underestimated you. Your spiritual authority will grow. Your discernment will sharpen. Your presence will carry weight. And those who try to come against you will meet consequences faster than ever before. Heaven is placing a new level of accountability on anyone who approaches you with impure intentions. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul are entering this same season. The spiritual climate is shifting for God's chosen. Protection is intensifying. Revelation is increasing. Clarity is spreading like fire. This is not a coincidence. It is divine timing. What you just endured was not punishment, it was preparation. Not suffering, it was elevation. God allowed this situation to unfold because He was promoting you spiritually. Every chosen one reaches a point where warfare becomes training, betrayal becomes wisdom, and warnings become upgrades. You are not the same person you were before this happened. You are stronger, wiser, more intuitive, and more aligned with God's purpose. The warning wasn't just about the investigator, it was about your destiny. God used this moment to activate gifts within you that were dormant. He awakened levels of discernment you didn't know you had. He removed people who couldn't go where you're going next. He cleared your path for new blessings, divine connections, and spiritual missions. What was meant to break you ended up building you. This is your spiritual promotion. You passed a test you didn't know you were taking. You survived a battle you didn't know you were fighting. You overcame an attack you didn't see coming. And now, God is elevating you to a place where your purpose will begin to unfold in ways you never imagined. The warning was not just protection, it was activation. Many chosen ones on Mirror of the Soul are stepping into this new mindset, realizing that everything they went through was preparing them for greater assignments. You are walking into a new realm of confidence, strength, and divine clarity. This is your moment to rise. Before you leave, I want to hear from you. What did this message awaken in you today? Do you feel spiritually promoted through this experience? Like, subscribe, and share this message from Mirror of the Soul to help another chosen one awaken to their divine calling.